Hello, literature lovers. Today I want to discuss the poetry of Commonwealth period. So don't forget that this Commonwealth period is not that Commonwealth period which can be called the post-colonial era and the colonies of the a period of independent from the British rule. But this is of that period where we can say the first democracy was formed when Charles I was executed, and that period is the special period because so many historical events happened at that period, and because of the no monarchy and then constitutional monarchy, and then later on resulted into that period of restoration of the monarchy. And there are many other events related to it which were formed and which really affected different kinds of things at that period, especially the movements at that period and the metaphysical poets of that period, the Caroline poets, and then the Puritans. And all of them played a very important role, and it's really important to understand all of the things related to the period and how, because the it's also called the Jacobean period, and because of King Jacob, and the Caroline period, since they were attracted and they were forced with the period. And one of the major writers, poets, in fact, was John Donne, and his portrait is quite expressive, and you can feel that period, how at that period people used to look like, and how they, it's difficult sometimes since we are too much immersed and you know affected by the current situation, and today's era is quite filled up with so many events and circumstances related to so many topics. The world is so vast and we are all interconnected, and one way or the other we get affected. So it is difficult to come out of that shell and try to understand some different era, some different genre, or some different position. But if you try to analyze and talk about it and discuss it with your friends, how that period was, and you will find it interesting. And especially if you are interested in literature, someone like me, and since I started teaching from the last 10 years, so almost got involved in it, and it is really pleasurable how these writers and these poets used to talk about it, and they were not affected by any other things, and they are good thinkers. And George Herbert, the work is talking we are talking about, and the temple is a very serious religious poems, and they are, and this is the original copy, and you can find it in museums, and this is the first copy of by Richard. And these things are really part of our history and history of literature, and it's really talking about that era and that genre which we are not much influenced, and how history, religion, and the socio-economic conditions and the kings and queens rule talk about that period. And now talking about Andrew Marvell, all of them belong to that Commonwealth period, and the poetry related to it is somewhat influenced by the economic and social and the power of that period, where the since it was filled with turmoil of all the religions and revolutions, and then religions, and then aristocrat and Protestants, and all of them were in great chaos. Still, all of these works have different kind of affections, and different writers have different perspective on their own how they think about it. I'm not talking about Milton's work, and it is always said that in every 100 year you will find a great poet or writer, and Milton is one of them, and that's what I think. Chaucer also come in that category, and same with Shakespeare. So he's part of that 100-year era. And when you're talking about the great poet, then how can you forget that it is Paradise Lost, which really summarized how someone can be great writer by his super great work, that is Paradise Lost. Thanks.